Hello students, welcome to the English class. We have started with the explanation of chapter 4 from Flamingo, the Rat Trap, and in my last video I have completed the explanation till page number 34, that is Never Escape. And today we will start with a new page number 35. It was late in December. Now before we start with the explanation, let's recapitulate whatever has happened in the previous pages. That is, we have been introduced to a Rattrap seller who is a very poor man. He is selling rat trap, okay, for his survival, but that is not enough for his for earning, so he resorts to petty thieving. And he has a very strange philosophy where he thinks that the world is a rat trap, and the people in this world are entrapped into this rat trap, running after luxuries and riches and money and food and clothing, isn't it? And then one day, as we start continue with the story, we find that he stays in one of the crafter's house at one particular night, and later on he steals away the money that the crafter had shown him so confidently, isn't it? And after stealing the money, he runs away into the forest, thinking that if he runs in the highway, then the crafter might be able to catch him. So he enters the forest, but inside the forest, he is completely lost. And he is trapped into his own philosophy. His philosophy was that the world is a rat trap, and he himself has been trapped into this because he had stolen the money, okay, and he was running after that luxury of 30 kronos. Now let's continue with the next line. It was late in December. Darkness was already descending over the forest. This increased the danger and increased also his gloom and despair. So when this rat trap seller, he stole the money, and the entire incident that had taken place, it was late in December, just before the Christmas Eve. Okay, so the month of December means the days are very shorter, so the darkness was already descending over the forest. Okay, and forest in the morning time is okay, but in the evening or in the night time, forest is always dangerous. Okay, so the moment the darkness fell into the forest, the rat trap seller also started to be frightened. Okay, he was also frightened because dangers were now coming into the forest. So he was very sad, he was very gloomy. Finally, he saw no way out, and he sank down on this ground, tired to death, thinking that his last moment had come. So, what happened? The rat trap seller, he was very worried. Okay, that he could not come out from the woods, right? He tried to walk in a definite direction, but the paths twisted back and forth so strangely that he was confused. Okay, he was completely tired, he was completely exhausted, and he could not come out from that forest. The forest became a kind of trap for him. So he was tired, okay, and he sank down on the ground, means he sat down on the ground, and he was thinking that his last moment has come, that he is now meeting his own death. But just as he laid his head on the ground, he heard a sound, a hard, regular thumping. There was no doubt as to what that was. He raised himself. Those are the hammer strokes from an iron mill, he thought. There must be people nearby. He summoned all his strength, got up, and staggered in the direction of the sound. Now, finally, when the peddler saw no way out, he was so overwhelmed with exhaustion that he sank down to the ground, tired to death, thinking that his last moment had come. Just then, what happened? He heard the sound of the regular thumping of a hammer. He immediately realized that the sound was coming from an iron mill. So he gathered up all his strength and walked towards the direction of the sound. Okay, when he lay down, what happened? When he lay down, his ear was linked to the ground, and from the ground he could hear the hammer strokes. So immediately understood that if there is an iron mill, there are people also. So he got up and he staggered towards there. He walked very slowly towards that iron mill, right? The Ramsjo Iron Works, which are now closed down, were not so long ago a large plant with smelter, rolling mill, and forge. So he had reached the Ramsjo Iron Work. Okay, Ramsjo Iron Work is an iron mill. The name of the iron mill, actually Ramsjo is a name of a place in Sweden. Okay, so Ramsjo Iron Work means it's a mill in this Ramsjo. Okay, so it was a very large plant with smelter. Okay, now there are some words which we need to know. Number one is smelter. What is the meaning of smelter? Smelter means it's an establishment for producing a base metal from its ore. Okay, that is known as smelter. Okay, forge. What is the meaning of forge? Forge means it's a furnace, okay, where metals are heated or wrought. Okay, it's a huge furnace where all the metals, you must have seen that in a smelter or in a iron mill, the huge metals are placed into a very hot furnace where it is melted. So Ramsar Iron Work was also a very long, very large plant, okay, and that time the Ramsar Iron Works were very much famous in Sweden, right? So there was a smelter, and there were these metals were, these iron metals were all melted over there, right? In the summertime, long lines of heavily loaded barges and scows slid down the canal, which led to a large inland lake. And in the winter time, the roads near the mill were black from all the coal dust which sifted down from the big charcoal crates. Okay, so in the summertime, what happened? The Ramsar Ironwork was so famous and so full of activity that always there was something or the other happening. Means something or the other work was going on. So in the summertime, what happened? Barges and scows. Barges and scows. What are barges? Barges are long, flat-bottomed boats. Okay, for carrying heavy goods on canals or rivers. And what are scows? Scows are flat bottom boats. Okay, large barges are long bottom boats and scows are flat bottom boats. Okay, now these boats are for using for they are transporting cargo. Okay, from one to and from ships in harbor, right? So in the summertime, the barges and scows, they used to carry the irons and through the down the canal and supply it to the market. Okay, and in the winter time, what happened? The roads near the iron mill become completely black from all the coal dust, okay, which sifted down from the big charcoal crates. So from the charcoal crates, the coal that was burned down into that furnace or into that smelter, it completely covered the snow laden roads over there, right? During one of the long dark evenings just before Christmas, the master smith and his helper sat in the dark forge near the furnace waiting for the pig iron which had been put in the fire to be ready to put on the anvil. Okay, now what happened? It was that just before the Christmas, as it was already told, it was the last month, the last days of December. So what happened? The master smith and his helper, they were still in that iron works and they were doing the work. They were sitting in that dark forge near the furnace, okay, and they were waiting for the pig iron. Now what is this pig iron? Pig iron means it's a crude iron first obtained from a smelting furnace. Okay, so they were waiting for the pig iron which they have put into the furnace, okay, such that the anvil should be ready. Every now and then one of them got up to start the glowing mass with a long iron bar, returning in a few moments dripping with perspiration. Though, as was the custom, he wore nothing but a long shirt and a pair of wooden shoes. So every now and then what happened is either the master smith or the helper, okay, they would go inside and they would just stir that glowing mass of that metal, okay, and return back. And what they were wearing only a long shirt and a pair of wooden shoes. Now remember, it was the time of Christmas. That means it was the winter time, okay, and in this winter time they are wearing only a shirt and a wooden shoe. Why? Because they were working in this iron mill, okay, and they were dripping with perspiration. If you see it is given here, dripping with perspiration, though it was the winter time, but since they were working near the furnace, so they were sweating and it was very hot there, okay. All the time there were many sounds to be heard in the forge. The big bellows groaned and the burning coal cracked. The fire boy shoveled charcoal into the maw of the furnace with a great deal of clatter. So, since work was going on, though it was the evening time, yet work was going on in the Ramsjo iron work. Okay, so there were lots of sounds, there were bellows groaning, and the coals cracking. Okay, and the fire boy it shoveled the charcoal into the maw. Okay, there is another word maw. Maw means what? The opening or the mouth of the furnace. Okay, so there was lots of clattering noise and various other thing. Okay, and these metals were all being melted over there. Outside roared the waterfall, and a sharp north wind whipped the rain against the brick tiled roof. And outside there was a waterfall, and that noise was also there. There was a north wind also. So, in this entire paragraph, we find that the various kind of noises that was there near the in this particular ironwork. Okay, there were big like groaning noises there, cracking noises there, clatter noises there. Okay, then whipping noise was there, right? Then rain was there was this rain against the brick tile roof. So much of noise was there around. Now, why did the author give a detailed account of the noise? Because it is said in the next paragraph, it was probably on account of all this noise that the blacksmith did not notice that a man had opened the gate and entered the forge until he stood close up to the furnace. Okay, so this Rattrap seller he reached the iron mill. Okay, and it was quite usual for any person like him to be attracted by the warmth and shelter of the forge. So he was ignored by the blacksmith. The blacksmith did not even know that he had entered because of various kind of noise and sounds that were happening near the iron mill, right? So this rat trap seller he went near that forge and he stood very close to the furnace because it was the late winter time and this furnace was an attraction. I have already told you that rat traps, okay, that this rat trap seller at the beginning of this chapter only have told that this world is full of baits. Now what are the baits that he mentioned? He mentioned the baits like clothing, food, heat, okay, shelter. So this rat trap seller, first he was entrapped because of the money that the crafter had shown him, that was luxury as a bait. Now he is again being trapped because of the heat and shelter that he is getting over here. So he is again entrapped into another big trap. Surely it was nothing unusual for poor vagabonds without any better shelter for the night to be attracted to the forge by the glow of light which escaped through the sooty panes and to come in to warm themselves in front of the fire. So it is very natural that the rat trap seller would be attracted by the fire. Okay, so though it is very sooty, here we find there is one word known as given sooty panes. Okay, sooty panes means something linked with ash, okay, ashes, right? So the entire this forge with its doors and windows was completely covered with ash. So this rat trap seller was attracted to this fire, to the heat, and he entered the iron mill. The blacksmith glanced only casually and indifferently at the intruder. He looked the way people of his type usually did, with a long beard, dirty, ragged, and with a bunch of rat traps dangling on his chest. Now, this iron master, that is the master blacksmith, sorry, the master blacksmith, he saw the rat trap seller, and it was very common for like this rat trap seller or vagabond entering the forge, because this has happened many a time. Okay, like these vagabonds, they are attracted by the shelter and the heat of the furnace, and they entered the this iron mill to get a rest or sleep for a particular night. So this blacksmith also, he glanced, okay, glanced only casually means he ignored the rat trap seller. Okay, it was very, very common to see any long bearded, dirty, wearing some ragged dresses coming inside the iron mill. He asked permission to stay. He means the rat trap seller. Okay, he asked permission to stay, and the master blacksmith nodded a haughty consent without honoring him with a single word. Okay, so when the rat trap seller wanted to sit here, okay, or for just get the shelter for the night, the master blacksmith just very rudely granted him the permission to stay here. Didn't even look at him once also. The tramp did not say anything either. He had not come there to talk, but only to warm himself and sleep. In those days, the Ramsdow iron mill was owned by a very prominent iron master whose greatest ambition was to ship out good iron to the market. So the tramp means the Rattrap seller also did not come here to talk or have any kind of introduction with the blacksmith, isn't it? So he was happy that he was given the permission. So he crouched near the furnace and he light out before it, right? Now Ramsdow iron work was at that time when the story was written. Ramsdow iron work was owned by an iron master who was very ambitious, and he wanted that the Ramsdow iron mill should be the best iron mill in the market, should be producing iron of the best quality. He watched both night and day to see that the work was done as well as possible. And at this very moment, he came into the forge on one of his nightly rounds of inspection. So every morning and evening, he used to come to the Ramsdow iron mill and check that the work was going on very smoothly. So that particular night also, he came for the nightly inspection, that whether the work was going on properly or not. Naturally, the first thing he saw was the tall ragamuffin who had eased his way so close to the furnace that steam rose from his wet rags. Okay, so the iron master. Now, who is an iron master? Iron master means the proprietor of an iron work. Okay, the master of the iron work. Okay, so this iron master, that night also when he came over there, he saw, as he entered the iron mill, he saw that a ragamuffin. Okay, here it is given here, a ragamuffin. What is the meaning of ragamuffin? Ragamuffin means a person wearing ragged and dirty clothes. Okay, so a ragamuffin eased his way so close to the furnace. Eased his way means come very slowly and carefully. Okay, very carefully. He was near the furnace. Okay, and he was so near the furnace that steam rose from his wet rags because he was completely tired. He was exhausted. Rain was falling outside. Okay, so the Rattrap cellar was completely wet. Now, when he was near the furnace, he went so close to the furnace to get the heat that steam was rising from his wet clothes. The iron master did not follow the example of the blacksmith, who had hardly deigned to look at the stranger. He walked close up to him, looked him over very carefully, then tore off his slouch hat to get a better view of his face. Okay, so this iron master, he did not follow the work just like that blacksmith have done, without even given a proper what we can say notice to the rat trap seller, and gave very arrogantly had behaved with him. The iron master did not do so. He went close to this rat trap seller. Okay, he removed his slouched hat. Now, what is a slouch hat? If you can see here, slouch hat means it's a kind of hat with a wide, flexible brim or edge. Right? So he removed the slouch hat and looked into the face of the rat trap seller. In order to have a better view that who this person is. But of course, it is you, Niels Olof, he said. How do you look? So immediately the iron master, he thought that this rat trap seller was his old friend Niels Olof. Now remember, it was a completely evening, night time, okay, and there was a dim light of the furnace, right? So the iron master mistook the red trap seller in the dim light for an old regimental comrade, okay, and addressed him as Niels Olof, right? Okay. The man with the rat traps had never before seen the iron master at Ramsdow and did not even know what his name was. But it occurred to him that if the fine gentleman thought he was an old acquaintance, he might perhaps throw him a couple of kroner. Therefore, he did not want to undeceive him all at once. So the rat trap seller again fell into another trap. Okay, what did he do? He thought he is not Niels Olaf. He knows it very nicely. Okay, and he understood that this iron master has completely mistaken him to be someone else. Okay, there was kind of mistaken identity committed by the iron master. So because the this Rattrap seller had never seen the iron master before in his life, but he thought in his mind that what bad it would be if he could get some kroner from this iron master because. Considering himself or acting himself as Niels Olaf, he could gather some sympathy from the Iron Master. And then, in the process, if the Iron Master would give him some money, then that would not be very bad. Okay, so therefore, what happened? This rat trap seller, he pretended that he is Niels Olaf. Okay, the peddler didn't try to clear his doubt, as he thought that the Iron Master might give him some money. Yes, God knows, things have gone downhill with me, he said. So the iron master, the peddler went on to say that yes, things went very bad with him. That means he have accepted that he is Niels Olaf. Okay, that he is not living a very good life. You should not have resigned from the regiment, said the iron master. That was the mistake. If only I had still been in the service at the time, it never would have happened. Well, now, of course, you will come home with me. So the iron master, who thought that it is his old friend Niels Olaf, because it is understood that the iron master was at one time working in an army. Okay, he was an army man, and Niels Olaf was his comrade, what we can say, a co-worker. Okay, he was also a co-army man. So somehow they got what we can say retired, or they have left their job. Okay, and now after that particular retirement, this iron master had not seen Niels Olaf for so many years, and now when he had seen the rat trap seller, he thought that this is Niels Olaf. Okay, he mistook him this rat trap seller as Niels Olaf. Okay. So the Iron Master said that that the Niels Olaf had made a great mistake, that he had left the job. Okay, and it is understood from this line that that was the mistake. If only I had still been in the service at the time. It means that the Iron Master had left the job before Niels Olaf left the job himself. Okay, so the Iron Master is saying that if Niels Olaf would not have left the job, then he would not have come to such a disgrace, or such kind of condition would not have occurred to him. What happened? The Iron Master now invited the rat trap seller that now you are not going to stay here, you have to come to with me to my house, to go along up to the manor house and be received by the owner like an old regimental comrade. That, however, did not please the trap. Now, the peddler thought that the iron master would give him some money and the matter would get over there. But then it did not happen so. The iron master did not give him any money. Instead, the iron master welcomed the peddler into his house, saying that you have to come to the house, okay, and saying that he has to spend the evening with him, right? Now, that was quite difficult because staying there and pretending as Niels Olaf and going to this Iron Master's house and pretending as Niels Olaf is quite different. Okay, now what is a manor house? Manor house is a large country house with lands. Okay, lots of land is there. Usually, in the olden time, the feudal lords, they used to live in the manor house. No, I could not think of it, he said, looking quite alarmed. He thought of the 30 kroner. To go up to the manor house would be like throwing himself voluntarily into the lion's den. He only wanted a chance to sleep here in the forge and then sneak away as inconspicuously as possible. So the peddler thought that going to the manor house would be like throwing himself into the lion's den. So he completely declined the invitation. Okay. The iron master assumed that he felt embarrassed because of his miserable clothing. Please don't think that I have such a fine home that you cannot show yourself there, he said. The iron master thought that the peddler was feeling embarrassed, okay, because of his miserable clothing. So he tried to comfort the peddler by informing about his himself and his family, that there was nothing to be ashamed about, okay. So he went on saying that Elizabeth is dead, as you may already have heard. Elizabeth, the wife of the iron master, okay. My boys are abroad abroad, that is the son of the iron master, they were now staying abroad, and there is no one at home except my oldest daughter and myself. And he had one daughter. Okay, so he says that he is staying there only with his daughter. So he and his daughter are the only two members of the family that are staying in the house. We were just saying that it was too bad we didn't have any company for Christmas. Now come along with me and help us make the Christmas food disappear a little faster. So the Iron Master went on to say that he was thinking that there is no one to spend, okay, that he and his daughter were thinking that there was no one to spend the Christmas that particular year along with them. So he thought that at last he had got his friend. So Nils Olaf could be a very good company to stay along with the Iron Master. But the stranger said no, and again no, and the Iron Master saw that he must give in. But the stranger, the peddler, he completely declined. Okay, he would not go there. Okay, constantly he refused the Iron Master that he would not go with him. So the Iron Master thought that the peddler, or Niels Olaf, whom he had considered, is very stubborn in his decision, that he is not willing to go. So the Iron Master thought that he needs to give in. Give in means he needs to surrender. Okay, he could not do anything more. It looks as though Captain Von Stahl preferred to stay with you tonight, Strandstrom, he said to the master blacksmith, and turned on his heel. So the Iron Master looked towards the blacksmith and said that maybe Captain Von Stahl, who is Captain Von Stahl? That is Niels Olaf. He was referred to as, or addressed to as, Captain Von Stahl during the regimental days. So the Iron Master went on to look towards the blacksmith and told that maybe Captain Von Stahl wants to stay with you tonight. Anyways, then let it be there. And so the Iron Master turned to his heel. Turned to his heel means he turned around and he moved outwards. Okay, moved outside the this iron mill. But he laughed to himself as he went away, and the blacksmith, who knew him, understood very well that he had not said his last word. Okay, so the Iron Master, he laughed and he went away. But the blacksmith, who had seen the Iron Master for so many years, understood that this is not the last word, or that the Iron Master did not give up completely. Okay, that there is something else going on inside his mind. But the Rattrap seller thought that the Iron Master went away, so he really relaxed. He completely relaxed and he went off to sleep again. It was not more than half an hour before they heard the sound of carriage wheels outside the forge, and a new guest came in. But this time it was not the Iron Master. He had sent his daughter, apparently hoping that she would have better powers of persuasion than he himself. So the Iron Master went away, but he was not deterred by the peddler's persistent refusal. Okay, now what happened? He sent his daughter to persuade the peddler. So when Edla, the daughter of the Iron Master, as she entered, okay, she entered with the carriage. Okay, so it was not more than half an hour. The peddler went off to sleep again. Okay, lied down, relieved himself that okay, the Iron Master went away. So half an hour also did not pass when the carriage came. Right, and now this time the daughter of the Iron Master, she entered the iron mill. So it is understood that the Iron Master went to the house. He told the entire matter to the daughter. So the daughter now took the carriage and came here, because according to the Iron Master knows it very nicely that his daughter had that persuasion power. Okay, so the daughter now came to persuade the old friend of the Iron Master to accompany her and spend the Christmas along with them in their own house. Right? Okay, students, I have explained till this much better powers of persuasion than he himself, right? In my next video, I will start from how the Edla had persuaded the this Rattrap seller, and then we will see the real story. Okay, what kind of transformation will come among the inside this peddler, and how Edla plays a very vital role in turning a wrong person into a right person, okay, into a right one, right? So in my next video we will start from this part, okay, and continue the chapter. So till this much, I hope everyone have understood very clearly. If there is still any doubt, please write to me or comment in the classroom. Okay, I will try to clear your doubt, right? And till then, study well, stay safe. Okay, thank you everyone.